Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Unbalanced with me, Cerys Davage. I hope you're all doing well. I'm excited to get to know Conor today. Conor, all the way from Ireland. Hello, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm delighted to be on here, and thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's really cool.
First Irish guest, am I right? Very
Wow.
excited.
I That's really cool. That's good to know.
You're representing that community for us, but you're also representing another community today, the Duchenne muscular dystrophy community. Please tell me a bit about yourself. Where are you from and what do you do?
Yeah, so I'm Conor. I'm a 24-year-old man from Ireland, and I live about 40 minutes outside of Dublin. Because I know a lot of people know where Dublin is. Like, I love my music. I love being outdoors. I love getting for like a swim when I can, and I do love sports. I'm a massive Liverpool fan. But I'm also a content creator and a disability activist. So I sort of share my own story on social media to raise awareness about Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and I hope and I fight for the rights of people with physical disabilities.
Amazing. That's naturally how we met, of course. The disability community online is a huge place to be. And I'm so glad that our paths have crossed because I really, really enjoyed your content. And I'm really looking forward to diving into that. But first of all, what is Duchenne muscular dystrophy? For those who don't know, can you give us a brief overview of it?
Of course. So Duchenne muscular dystrophy, it's a progressive muscle wasting disease. And it's caused by the mutation in the dystrophin gene. It can be inherited from a mother who is a carrier, or it can happen randomly. That happened in my case randomly. So some people call it a fluke. It doesn't only affect the muscles though; it can also affect learning and other abilities such as attention span, verbal memory, and sort of like emotional processing. And there's also a higher chance of having ADHD, autism, and anxiety when you have Duchenne. Not all of them, but either one or the other.
Gosh, so it really is kind of like a double whammy in a way. Like you've got this,
Hmm.
but you may have a lot of other things as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the thing.
Wow, okay. How were you diagnosed? Like, what kind of age were you?
Well, for me, I was 3.5 when I finally got a diagnosis back in 2005. It was sort of like a long journey for me to get diagnosed. It started when my mother noticed I was struggling with things like getting up from the floor. I would naturally just grab onto furniture, and I also walked on my toes. I also had like speech difficulties and I couldn't pronounce certain words. So with all that stuff happening, my mother, she brought me to various doctors for it was about a period of a year, but many of the doctors that she brought me to, they would just say I was lazy, especially because I actually have a twin sister, and they thought that through having a twin sister that I just relied on her too much and I was getting her to do all the work. But eventually my CK levels were checked, and they were way above the normal range. And that's sort of how the doctors realized that it was Duchenne.
Wow, okay. That's so interesting that you're a twin. I'm
Mm,
sure, like, I mean, you'll naturally have that rivalry and that competition anyway with
yeah.
siblings, let alone with this as well. Can you tell us a bit about growing up with Duchenne and your kind of experiences of it? I mean, your symptoms sound very like muscular dystrophy-esque, very like
Mm,
typical of it.
yeah.
Um, as someone also with muscular dystrophy. So yeah, I'm intrigued to know how you found, growing up with it and especially in relation with your sister as well.
Yeah, I think for me, growing up with Duchenne, it was tough. I faced many like barriers and hurdles. But as a kid, I honestly don't remember a lot. I think, to be honest, I've sort of like blocked out a lot. So that's a pity. But I think my memories sort of start from when I was a teenager. So one of my biggest challenges was sort of accepting that I had Duchenne. I didn't feel like I fit in with others who had the condition, because health wise I was doing better than many of them. So that made me sort of question whether I actually had Duchenne or muscular dystrophy at all. So I masked my symptoms really a lot at that age to try fit in. It's, a big thing at that age to try fit in. So I really didn't overcome that obstacle overnight. I think I've sort of accepted it as time has gone on. But in relation to my twin sister, we're very different. So Caitlin is her name, and yeah, it was really tough growing up because when we went into secondary school, we were actually in the same school, and it was a mixed school. So me and her could have classes together, or she would be friends with people that I was friends with. So yeah, for me it was tough because sometimes I could see, people found it easier with her than they did me, just because I had a disability. So yeah, it was this hard thing of sometimes being jealous in the sense of her, which, at the time was a big thing in my mind. But yeah, it was tough because she could do, the sports and everything, and I couldn't. So yeah, it was this weird rivalry and jealousy at times as well. But we have, a really good relationship now. So that's the main thing. I think, these things just make you who you are today. So
Absolutely. And it's never a linear journey to accepting yourself.
mm,
Even though I'm really open with talking about my experiences, I'd say I'm still on that journey. It's not, I don't think there's ever an end point. There are still some days
no,
where I'm so ashamed of my disability and I really just want to hide it as much as possible. I don't want people to know about it.
yeah,
And I'm sure, many people listening can relate as well. So it is definitely, an up and down kind of roller coaster journey.
for sure.
Um, but yeah, just finding this community has really helped me just accept it a bit more because I don't know about you, but I didn't know anyone else really my age with a disability growing up.
Yeah, for me actually, we have in Ireland Muscular Dystrophy Ireland, so it's like MDUK, but our version. So true that we actually had clubs when we were kids, and we would go to them, and be me and my sisters, and we'd go and meet other people with similar or the same disability as me. So that was really interesting. But for me, actually, that caused me to be a bit confused because through meeting those people, I would see that they had Duchenne, but it was health wise, they weren't as well as I was. So it was just this weird thing of like, okay, I can relate to these people in a way, but I can't in another way. And it quite scared me because I was only a young kid and I didn't understand, exactly what was going on. So yeah, I did know people, but in a way, it actually for me made it worse to see people who were struggling more than me because it made me feel, like I'm lucky in a way, and I have all this going for me, and sometimes I did suffer with depression. So for me it actually made me think, okay, I have all this going for me, and then there's me complaining. So it was this weird like battle between myself. But as I've grown up, I sort of accepted my condition, and it wasn't up until 2020 when I started my, Instagram, TikTok, and stuff like that. And that's when I actually started to make, real connections within the community. And it's been a big help since then.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I agree. I just felt like I was going through this experience alone until I found the online community, and I'm surprised I didn't find it sooner. I'm kind of annoyed at myself that I didn't find it sooner because, like, it seems that we've all had the same kind of experience, trying to fit in. And then I know a lot of
Mm,
people have, been kind of grouped together with different charities or,
yeah.
different communities, but maybe it's not quite worked out or whatever. And
Mhm.
I guess I just didn't really wanna know when I was younger. I didn't
Yeah,
wanna be
exactly.
classed as disabled, and
Hmm.
because my, muscular dystrophy is progressive, I didn't count myself as disabled back then, so I was like, "That's a
Yeah.
future thing, that's a future problem." But now I guess we're here and, I guess it's better to accept it.
Yeah, exactly. Like you try fight something for so long, and you're just not going to win, so you have to just accept your life and just go with it. And that's what I always say. I think for me as well, like even when I was younger, I think that was the thing. I was being grouped in with people, and I wasn't fully comfortable with having a disability myself. So it was like this thing of like, you have this condition and you're meant to be this way, but I was not that way at all. So it was like this weird thing of like, I needed a couple of years to get comfortable with it. And then when I did, it was like I found this community. And yeah, as you say, like it's progressive. So you're like, okay, I won't need that until a certain time in my life. But I feel like when I did find that, I found it at the right time.
That's good. I'm really glad to hear. And it's the same with mobility aids as well. You've not only got your disability, you've also got like the visual side of it as well and using mobility aids, which I do want to get into because you said
Yeah.
that your sister was always known as the sporty one, but
Mhm.
you are really into sports. So it's great to see that you're not letting your disability hold you back, which I think it's still a huge stereotype that needs to be smashed in a way. Tell us a bit about that, your sports journey.
Yeah, so for me, like, I always grew up and I liked sports, and I sort of stopped in a sense, like myself, like liking them up until I was about 12 or 13, when I sort of became comfortable more so with watching sports than actually, having to like play them. So for me, yeah, I'm like a big Liverpool fan, and I've been over there to Liverpool about 12 or 13 times now, over the last couple of years. So yeah, it's been this thing of like, I've had to accept that maybe a sports journey is not for me, but watching sports is. I also did try wheelchair soccer, so that was another thing I did try, and that was a journey. I did that for about a year and a half, I would say. But I was actually very scared of the speed. So I'm a bit of a scaredy cat. So I was just a bit like, okay, I can't deal with the speed. So that was my sports journey. My sports journey right now is just watching, sport. But otherwise, I did actually try play sport, but it didn't work out.
That's fair enough. But, at least you still tried it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. I tried it. I can say I tried it.
Yeah, exactly. But that's so cool that you've, still been able to travel to Liverpool to go and see some
Mm.
games. Do you travel a lot?
Yeah, I do actually. I'd say if anybody sort of follows me on social media, they'll know I travel a lot. So yeah, I've been on a couple of trips, and I've also done a lot of freelance work in my time. So I've done work with the Council of Europe, and I got to travel to Strasbourg and also Budapest to film accessible videos. I also do just try go on, little trips here and there a lot. So I've been to a lot of countries in Europe, so it's been really cool. I've also been, to America a couple of times, so that's been cool as well. So yeah, I do like to travel, and of course, I know a lot of people with, I shouldn't say disabilities, I should say more so wheelchair users. They sort of struggle with having that, fear of their chairs getting damaged or destroyed on an airplane. Luckily enough, I haven't really had that, but yeah, I get why people are nervous, but I'd really recommend people to travel while they can. It's really cool to experience new cultures, and yeah, so if you can travel, I'd just say, just do it.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. There's always going to be anxiety around traveling. I certainly get that. When you land, you're like, oh, I hope my tour made it through.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but it is kind of worth it in the end. Just the amazing experiences, and you don't want to deprive yourself of that just because you've got that extra hurdle that maybe other people don't have. It is annoying that we have to like forward plan and do a lot more,
Yeah.
planning in advance and stuff. But yeah, no, it's so worth it.
Yeah, just to get, new experience, as they say, new cultures is really important. And I've actually also got to manage to meet people who I've become friends with from online, in wherever they're from, or, if I'm near there, I'd get a text and it'd be like, oh, do you want to meet or whatever. So I've actually gotten to meet a lot of people from this community, which has been really cool.
That's my goal. I really actually want to meet more people face to face. As much as I love doing these online interviews and meeting people online, like I'm like I just want to
Yeah,
I want to give you a hug. Do you know what I mean? Like I want to see you guys in
that's it.
person. I want to hang out. I want to go to the pub with you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Just thing everyday things, and that's the thing. Like, because online is great, and I love, being able to form connections online. But yeah, I just think there's nothing better than getting to finally, meet somebody in person and say, I've been talking to you for years, and we've become so close over, these similar experiences that we've had, and it's just really cool. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
a great segue into your online content. Tell us a bit about your content creation and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm a content creator and activist. So it's very funny because my content I can never sort of describe it to people. It's like what you do, and I'm like, oh, I'm an advocate, but I'm also like, I show my, my lifestyle videos as well. So, if I'm on holiday or anything, I would show off that as well. But I'm a huge fan of writing, so I love to write my experiences, and hopefully through that people can relate to my content. So I'd sort of class myself as a activist slash lifestyle content creator. It's like a big word, but that's the sort of stuff that I do.
It's a bit of everything, just, little glimpses into different parts of your life.
Yeah, exactly. It's just little glimpses. And yeah, I think back in 2020 when I started, it was more so I started because I was bored during COVID, and I thought to myself, oh, I may be able to help other people. So that's why I do it. And yeah, a mix of content. People can check out my page if they want, and then they'll be able to see more of my content. Because people would always say to me, I sort of understand myself. So yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, what is your name on social media?
Yeah, so on Instagram, my handle is at Con McAuley, so that's ConMcAuley. I'm also there as well on TikTok, but I am more of an Instagram fan, so I use that more.
Yeah, me too. We're like Instagram OGs, I feel like. How
Yeah.
has the response been? How's the response been to your content, and how are you finding it?
Yeah, I found my, response to my content to be very good. I'm lucky enough that I haven't had to deal with anybody who is, trolling me or anything. Because I know a lot of people in our community have had to deal with that. So yeah, I've had a good, sort of good reception on my content. Also as well, people would get in touch with me who have, maybe children with the same condition as me, or they have, a friend or a brother or an uncle, because mostly boys are affected with Duchenne. But I love that because it's really cool as a community, getting to put myself out there, and then other people are able to see that. And I hope that just gives them a bit of hope, and it can, show that I have Duchenne, but I'm not just Duchenne. There's so much more to me. So yeah, it's really cool. So yeah, I've had positive feedback.
That's great to hear, and I'm I just feel like so proud of you because it's not easy to share your experiences online, and not everyone would do that. You know, it might come easy to you if you're
Mm,
used to it, but
yeah.
a lot of people would really struggle to open up, and I think you're such a good representation for people that might struggle to open up about their disabilities, especially with the stigma around men's mental health as well. I think it's great to see, just men like you talking openly about their struggles, but also their daily lives outside of it. And, you're not just your disability. You are so much more. And
Exactly.
to show that you can do so much more will, yeah, obviously bring some hope to a lot of people. So thank you for all that you do.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. It's really great to hear that from somebody, who has muscular dystrophy themselves.
Absolutely. I know our conditions are under the same kind of umbrella, but obviously
Mhm.
they're very, very different. Mine is limb girdle, and yours is Duchenne. So, can you tell us a bit about what your symptoms are now, like how you're doing with it right now?
With Duchenne, I sort of deal with various symptoms. Tiredness can be a big one. So sometimes I have to just, make sure I get enough sleep and make sure I relax because I find it very hard to, stop. Also fatigue as well. So sometimes I can, want to just grab as much food as I can and just, eat because I suffer with fatigue. And also as well, calf muscle cramping. So sometimes I would be just throughout the day, sitting down in my chair and all of a sudden I would get a bit of cramping. So that can be a bit tough. I also have sort of hip and femur pain, because I've broken both of them, and I've had to have metal plates put into my hip. So, those things can also make everyday life challenging, but I just try to manage my symptoms as best as I can.
Wow, you've broken your bones. That's it. I
Yeah.
mean, it's scary anyway, but it's especially scary when you've got an kind of an underlying condition. What happened there?
Mm.
Sorry, I'm being nosy now.
Yeah, no, you're fine. You're fine. I've told this story back when I first started, I'd say, my counsel. Yeah, it's been a long
Oh.
time, but yeah. So for me, I first of all broke my femur. I was about 16, I would say. I was still full-time walking. So I was actually walking home to a friend's house, and I went over and I fell and I broke my femur. I fell out onto the road. So that was a really tough thing. And also as well at that time it was hard because I went from walking full time to being a full time wheelchair user. And I was so good at masking things back then that I would even get questions after I was in the chair and be like, when are you getting out of that thing? So that was the first thing, the femur. So that was like a big event in my life. And then the hip came, that would have been I think 2021, and I tripped and I fell and I broke my hip. And yeah, through that I actually had to get surgery, so I had to get like metal plates inserted and stuff. So yeah, like I have to get for pain management like every 6 months, like, injections done and stuff like that. So that's been a very big thing and a very big thing for symptoms because I do suffer with a little bit with pain. So yeah, they're my sort of like two breaking stories. I broke my hand as well, but that was like years ago. That was like 10 or 12 years ago. So that didn't have much effect on me.
Wow, you're like crossing off the bingo card there of all the different bones you can
Yeah.
break. Oh,
Yeah.
bless you. Well, you're a trooper for going through those, and I think you are actually inspiring me to use my mobility. It's more like on the days that I suffer and I worry that I'm going to fall, I'm like, you know what? Sometimes it's not worth it. Like, if I fall, I could get seriously injured or break a bone.
Yeah.
And considering the fact that we're not allowed to have casts because if we do have casts, it means we can't exercise the muscle for weeks or
Mm,
months or whatever. And the
yeah.
alternatives sound really scary. So, yeah, it just sounds like a much longer and more painful process for someone with muscular dystrophy.
That's it, of course. And yeah, the thing with me is that I've always sort of been a bit rebellious, and I'd be like, oh, you know what I mean? Walk as long as you want, do what you want. But it is hard sometimes when you're like feeling tired or something. Sometimes it is good to just say to yourself, okay, I will use my mobility aid and I will do this. And even though for someone like stubborn, that is really hard to take. But for me as well with the femur, they actually did use a cast, but they used like this. It was like this cast that they made up, sort of. So it was very like lightweight, and I actually managed to get back up on my feet after breaking the femur, but I was mostly walking just in the house. But my foot was never the same because I did have, a cast on. It was a lighter cast, but yeah, the muscles really did get damaged and they never recovered.
Wow, that's crazy. Well, thank you for
Mm,
going through that so that we didn't have to and we can
always.
learn from you.
Yeah.
Because I'm an extremely stubborn person as well. Even if I'm struggling, I'm like, no, 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 I want to do it. I want to do it all. But sometimes it's not worth it. And sometimes, we push ourselves to the extreme and we end up
Yeah,
suffering. And I need to remember that sometimes it's okay to just, take a break or sit down or use a
exactly.
mobility aid, having this condition in general. I think, it does make us stronger, not physically, obviously, but,
Yeah,
mentally and
mentally.
yeah, and just, and I'm sure your family as well and your sister have so much of a better understanding because of you. You've brought like so much perspective into their lives as well.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's the thing. And it's funny for them because they see these things and they see these struggles that I've had, and they really fight on my corner, and that's really cool. And I think it's fun as well because when they go away themselves, like my older sister, she lives actually in New York. So when she's there, she would be like, saying things to her friends or whatever and saying, this isn't accessible, and telling people. So sort of like I love it though because it's like this thing of like spreading the word. So it's like, oh, my brother has a disability, I've learned from that, and I'm gonna, bring it somewhere else and bring it to more people. So I find that very funny. But yeah, it has, my experience has definitely made them more resilient and more understanding of, people with disabilities.
I love that. She's basically advocating for you from the other side of the world. Like pointing things out, pointing out inaccessibility. And I know that's, especially a problem in big cities like New York. There's still a lot of work to be
Mm,
done. But I love when my friends point stuff out that they wouldn't have known about if it wasn't for me. They're like, oh,
yeah.
like I went to this place today and I just realized like there was a giant step to get in and there was no ramp. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, thank you for thinking of that. That actually
Mm,
the fact that they're even considering that, and
exactly.
integrating that
That's the
into their
thing.
daily life.
It's lovely to see because I always think of this like, if I had a friend who had a disability who used a mobility aid, I would think the exact same way. But when you sort of think of it yourself, you sort of feel like, oh my God, they're doing that. You think it's really cool. But
Mm,
like, yeah, I would just think of that, in a way. So it's great though. But that shows that you have really good friends as well. And
mm,
my friends would be the same. So it's pretty cool.
absolutely. One thing I have yet to do that I'm actually quite excited for because I love going out, but I've never gone out in a wheelchair before. And I've always been so careful when it comes to, drinking or where we go.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm just really worried that, if I drink too much and I end up losing my balance and falling, I might like end up
Yeah.
in a horrible situation. But I'm like, if I go out in my
Yeah.
wheelchair, I can just get carried away.
That's it, exactly, exactly. There's actually some advantages to having a wheelchair or a mobility aid. Because I would have been the exact same actually, when I first broke my femur at like 16 or 17. I shouldn't say I was drinking. I know I technically wasn't drinking because I was under 18, so just ignore me on any of those points.
That's
But
fine.
when I was going out
We've all
having a
been
fun
there.
time with friends, yeah, when I was going out and having a good time with friends, it was that thing of where I was nervous and stuff like that. I remember I actually went to a party and I slipped on tile, and this random fella came over to me and he just picked me up, and I was never as embarrassed in my life, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna never do this again, but I did do it again. But yeah, it's that weird thing of like you're so afraid of something going wrong that your focus turns into that, so I would definitely advocate to use a mobility aid if you're worried about that.
Yeah, that's actually such a good point. It's constantly at the back of my mind, and I feel like it
Mm,
it would just ease my mind so much, and I wouldn't have to worry about that aspect of, constantly looking out for myself. Or it's especially, worse when it's really busy and people bump into you, and then you could be on the floor like that. The only thing I'm still
that's it.
battling with, and I know that a lot of people would struggle with this as well, is just going out, especially somewhere where you'll bump into a lot of people that you know, but in a wheelchair.
Yeah,
There's still not many people I see out and about using mobilities or in wheelchairs on a night out. And it may be because a lot of them are like me and they have invisible disabilities and they just, want to hide it, or just, I don't know, just want to carry on. But um, I'm just gonna try and battle that like inner ableism
yeah.
and just do it.
It's Yeah, exactly. It is so hard though. Like I don't think people realize how hard it actually is. Because you're going from, people that you've known for a long time, they've never seen you in a wheelchair to seeing you in a wheelchair, and all of a sudden your mind is like, oh, are they going to treat me different? Are they going to talk to me in a different way? So it's funny because even with me, with my life, I've always thought, it's weird. Like I see some people I knew from the past when I was walking and then I was in the chair, and I find it really hard to be comfortable with those people, and it's not a fault of their own, but it's just this weird thing within me where I'm like, this is awkward. But yeah, it's tough to overcome that, and just try use your mobility aids, but I try to say to myself, life is very short, so just try do it, just try put yourself out there, it's very short, and other people would crave at the chance of that. So yeah, that's what I try to say to myself.
That's very true. And who knows, maybe people will all just be jealous of me and they'll all want to go sitting in my
Mm,
wheelchair. So,
exactly. That's the thing. They'll be like, "Oh, can I have a go?" and stuff like that.
especially because I've just gotten a electric add-on, so I can go fast now. People will
Mm.
want to go to like whiz around and, pretend like they're in Mario Kart or something.
That's it. Exactly, exactly. It's all just these like fun things that you have to think about, and I always get, my friends would always slag me off and stuff like that, and be like, "Oh, you're gonna get a speeding ticket and all," and I'm like, just, oh,
Challenge accepted though. Well, thank you anyway, because I think seeing people like you, I mean, I am 24 as well, so seeing someone exactly my age just going out and enjoying life, and I know you're a sociable person. I know you enjoy going to the pub. From your
mm,
Instagram, I might be wrong
yeah,
because
yeah,
social
I do.
media it's not all the whole truth, but I
Yeah.
have seen, obviously, you've I know you like your Guinness. It's not something that's on my radar.
It's an Irish thing. It's an
It
Irish thing.
is.
You need your Guinness. It's like our blood at this point. But yeah, yeah, I do actually love to go out and go to the pub and stuff like that, and go out to the nightclub and all. And it's funny as well because when I do get to do those things, I absolutely love it. But sometimes I can be a very like quiet person, a quite reserved person. So it just depends on, who I'm with and if I'm comfortable with those people. If I'm comfortable with those people, I'll be like, hell yeah, let's go and do this. But yeah, if I'm just not really comfortable, I'll sort of go into my own self a little bit. So
Yeah.
yeah, it is half true, half not true, that's the
Okay.
thing. Like, yeah, so it's sort of this funny thing of if I feel comfortable with people and I'm around those people a lot, I'll be like, let's go every day. And then if I'm in a different situation, it wouldn't be like that. So yeah. I think it depends on the day because you're not going to be going to a nightclub 7 days a week. Like I don't think we'd be able to keep up with that.
No, absolutely not. Maybe there was a time. And I hate when people say like, "What? Like,
Exactly.
you're so young, you know, you're still in your 20s, you should be going out all the time." I'm like, "Trust
Mm,
me, with my fatigue,
yeah.
there is no getting me out that door multiple times a week, let alone once a week."
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And if it's too cold out, I'm just like, no, I'm not bothered. Like,
Honestly, like this kind of time of year when it's freezing outside, I really dread to go outside. And I'm an extrovert. I love meeting new people. I love going out and
same.
socializing, but something I've had to learn is that my battery doesn't always allow that. And I'm just talking about my physical battery, my fatigue battery, I guess. And there does come a point where even though I love socializing, I just can't. I'm like, you know what? I have to tap out. I need to go home.
Exactly.
That, you have to listen to your own limits, don't you?
That's it, exactly you do. And I've learned myself, it's like over the years where it's like, okay, I need to just rest now. And I've sort of mentioned before, like when we were sort of talking, is that I do like to do everything and I don't like to stop. So I can't stop sometimes. So I'm just like, oh, you have to stop. So yeah, with these conditions, that's another hard realization is that sometimes you need a break and you need to just, give yourself time to recover. Because yeah, it can cause, a lot of fatigue. So for sure.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking your time to chat with me too. It's been really nice just to get to know you on just like
Mm,
a deeper level and just, being in different group chats
of
and
course.
passing ships on social
That's
media.
it. That's it, exactly. It's nice just to talk one on one because yeah, I feel like within our community, like sometimes we could have like group chats and stuff like that and get to know people through that. But yeah, it's really nice just to have a chat.
Absolutely. And it's nice to not just complain. I think it's really easy to
Yeah.
complain about the
Yeah,
worst parts of our condition, but there's still so much, goodness in our life. And like you said, life is too short. So if I do have a bad day, like I try to just sit with it for a minute and then just kind of let it go because I want to still enjoy life
that's
as
it.
much as I can. And I think social media is a great way to enjoy life, but I think, it can be a place where you can easily focus on the negative. So it's
For
nice to
sure.
be able to just to chat about the normal things as well.
Mm. That's it exactly. And for me, like I sometimes think with social media, like I need a break sometimes and I need to just get off it. Even if you do try, control your content and stuff like that. Sometimes I find myself like scrolling and it's just these like most stupidest videos, that you have. And that is fun and that's fair, but like when you're there for like an hour just scrolling, that can become very unhealthy. So yeah, it is nice to just sort of step out of that sometimes and just, chat.
Absolutely. It's something I'm trying to work on is my screen time and just like doom scrolling. And I keep saying to myself, just because I work in social media and I obviously we both do a lot of content,
Yeah.
it's important to step back from that for a sec because I think as content creators, we always think about the next thing we want to post and, to try and stay active
Yeah.
and, provide this content to our followers. But actually, we still need to take time for ourselves and we need to protect ourselves as well.
Yeah, it's a weird balance, and for me, like I work in social media as well, so it's this weird thing of like, okay, like you need to switch off now, like stop looking up trends, stop trying to, do this or do that. So it's like this thing of like, live in the real world, it's the online world is great, but sometimes yeah, you do need to switch off.
Absolutely. So you mentioned that you work in social media. Why is that important to you?
Well, I think it's really important to me, because sharing your story has a big power, and also sharing my own story. It sort of helped me to understand myself better, and it also helps others feel seen, and supported too, which is a big thing. I want to show like the reality of living with a disability, not just the medical side of things, because I feel like a lot of people, just see disability as a medical thing. There's a human side, and I want to break the stereotypes and show that disabled people can be confident. We can, be ambitious and also be outspoken. So activism sort of matters to me. My social media is a way of creating change, and any of the other, organizations or companies I've worked on social media, that's the way I think as well. It's sort of just to make things easier for people or, create change.
That's incredible. And you're definitely using your platform for the better, just to raise as much awareness as possible and to kind of break the barrier and not just create content for the disability community, which is really important, for people to have that representation, but also break into the audiences that may not see much disabled content, and to be aware
Exactly.
that, disabled people are still normal people and we still have normal lives. So that is incredible what you do.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Did you say you work with a lot of other like companies or organizations on social media?
Yeah, like I've done a lot of work with companies and stuff like freelance work, or I did an internship in RT, which is our version of the BBC. So it's our like national broadcaster. So I was like a social media intern there for a while. So yeah, it's really cool. Like I've loved, working in social media, doing freelance work, social media. So yeah, I feel like that's a great thing, but also a curse, as you say as well. You're always switched on. So yeah, but it is cool getting to do that work.
The thing is with social media creating is people say that scrolling is actually like homework. You're actually doing research for constant new ideas, which is great. But then I feel like I'm just using that as an excuse. If I'm scrolling when it's getting
Yeah.
really late in bed and I'm still scrolling, I'm like, no, I'm just getting ideas. But actually, I should probably switch
Yeah, yeah.
off.
That's it, exactly.
I love that. I want to ask you a question that I ask all my interviewees, which is there a piece of advice that you'd give to someone else that's maybe just gotten diagnosed or that's gone through something like you have, like a younger version of yourself, maybe?
Yeah, I would tell anybody who's been diagnosed, or my younger self, the younger version of Connor, just not to be so hard on yourself. Like you don't need to hide your symptoms to try to fit into what you think is normal. Because you're definitely enough as you are. For anybody struggling, like it just doesn't define your value. Ask for help when you need it. Take life one day at a time. And also don't be afraid to celebrate the small victories. There's real strength in being honest about what you're going through.
I absolutely love that. That is a perfect way to end this episode. And I'll be definitely taking that advice for myself. I think it's so easy to be hard on yourself with anything, not just anything disability related, just in life. But I always try and treat myself like I would treat a friend. Like I would never let my
Yeah,
friend treat themselves
exactly.
really hard or be hard on themselves. So I'm trying to talk to myself in the same way and be like, no, I need to give myself a bit of grace. I am
Yeah,
trying.
exactly. It's hard, but yeah, sometimes you need to.
You need that tough love sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Connor, so much for coming on the podcast today. It's been so nice to chat to you. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It's been a pleasure to be on, and I really want to thank you for having me on. It's been great, and I've really enjoyed getting to know you over the past couple of years, but also now on this one-on-one level, which I think is really cool. I would call you a friend, so that's the main thing. But I also want to just thank everyone who also supports me as well. Like my family and friends and people who follow my journey online. It does mean a lot. So one more thing, I also want to encourage people to learn more about disabilities and listen to those living with them. Awareness does lead to understanding, and understanding leads to change. And to anyone living with Duchenne or another disability, your voice definitely matters. So do not be afraid to use it.
I'm gonna cry. That was so good. That was amazing. Thank you. Yes, your voice absolutely does matter, and you're using your voice, Connor, to some incredible levels, and I can't wait to see you continue to grow your platform just to educate people and raise awareness. Guys, please, if you're listening and you don't already follow Connor, please follow him on social media. I will link his @ below in the description, so please check him out. Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed, please don't forget to rate this podcast 5 stars and to subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and follow the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you so much to Cure LGMD2I and BridgeBio for sponsoring this podcast. I appreciate you guys so much, and I will see you guys very soon in my next episode. Bye.